Well, the news we've all sort of been waiting for and all expecting is here. The Browns have relieved, which is always such a funny way to say fired, Joe Woods of his duties, and we are off and running on Black Monday. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. And on today's show, I'm going to run through some Joe Woods early replacements because I think you could see a hiring as soon as next week. So, with Joe Woods out, we're going to run through a list of names to watch for. But first, before we bid Joe Woods adieu, whatever, here's what Kevin Stefanski said about the firing. I like to thank Joe for his hard work and dedication in his 3 seasons as our defensive coordinator. I will always have the utmost respect for Joe, the person, and the coach. Unfortunately, we didn't perform up to our standards enough this season, and we all share in that responsibility. We all wish Joe and his family the best in the future. Like I said at the top of the show, we all saw this coming. I don't think I have to harp too much on it. We don't need to look at the stats. We know this defense was underwhelming, was disappointing. In fact, before I even started filming, my coworker, Giants Now host Marshall Green, was like, Browns defense, top 5 frauds of the NFL season this year, because I talked about them a ton coming into the year, and they were awful. So let's run into some Joe Woods replacements now, starting with Brian Flores, the current linebacker / defensive assistant, senior advisor coach for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. And who knows, maybe Haslam kidnapped Brian Flores on the way home from Pittsburgh yesterday. So, like I said, he's the Steelers' defensive assistant and linebackers coach this year. Of course, he was the Dolphins head coach for the 3 previous seasons, in which he accumulated a 24-25 record. Now, I do want to note this. He ran a 3-4 defense in Miami, which is not what the Browns have run under Joe Woods in the last 3 seasons, right? That was a 4-3 defense. So you would see a change made there. And anytime you bring on a new defensive coordinator, it can always be a bit intimidating of, my brain is so used to 4-3, I don't know if I can go to 3-4. More than half the teams in the league, I think, run 3-4. It's been growing pretty much year by year, and it allows for more athleticism on the field and more speed, which this defense sort of desperately needs. Now, the Dolphins with Brian Flores, they got better and better as he got there, right? And yards allowed, just from his first season, 2019, they were nearly dead last in the NFL. By the time he was unexpectedly fired, they were top half, okay? Not just yards, though. There's a lot of ways to measure a defense. What about points allowed, right? He comes in, they're dead last in points allowed. In one offseason, he gets them in 2019 to 2020, from 32nd to 6th in points allowed, okay? And then probably the stat we are all looking forward to the most, the one we want to know the most about, rushing yards, right? How is the run defense under Brian Flores? And here it is. Run defense under Brian Flores, 27th in year 1, and he gets them all the way up to 14th. And that's definitely going to be the first question that Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and Jimmy and D. Haslam, when they do these DC interviews, is how would you fix our run defense? Because that was the Achilles heel of this team. So, the way I'm going to work throughout all these replacement options is we're going to do sort of a thumbs up, thumbs down system. So kind of gladiator style right now, right in the middle here. When it comes to when it comes to Brian Flores, Chuck Norris, thumbs up, baby. Like, I would love to see Brian Flores on the Browns sideline or up in the press box next season. I think he would be a fantastic hire for Cleveland, and I would be doing cartwheels if they were able to bring on a Belichick disciple, a 4-time Super Bowl winner, and someone who's so meticulous and just so attention detail oriented, where he is going to comb through every single bit of film and not miss a single thing. That was the backbone of his Dolphins team, and honestly, the only reason he really got fired was because he couldn't figure out the quarterback position, didn't really believe in Tua, and here's the good news. You do not have to worry about that in Cleveland, Brian Flores. Just focus on the 11 on defense. Now, I want to ask this question to you, though. We're going to get into more replacements, but first, who is your top defensive coordinator candidate? Is it Brian Flores? Is it someone else we're going to talk about on today's show? Let me know in the comment section below. So, next possible replacement here, Jim Schwartz. This is a name that's been getting a lot of Twitter attention, a lot of buzz the last couple of days, and somewhat out of nowhere because Jim Schwartz has been in kind of half retirement. He's a defensive assistant in senior defensive assistant in Tennessee. He's been that role for the last 2 seasons. Now, of course, he was the Lions head coach for a good stretch of time from 2019 and later on, going 29-51. Also, he has 15 years as a defensive coordinator experience. He was with the Bills, the Eagles. He won a Super Bowl with. Now, he runs a 4-3 defense with man-to-man, which is a little bit different than we saw with Joe Woods, and that honestly is going to be a breath of fresh air, right? Not that zone defense that keeps giving up those chunks of yardage but tries to hold you in the red zone. No, he's going to play 4-3, and he's going to play you press man coverage, which means I am betting on my guys to beat your guys, okay? He also has his first NFL start came with the Browns back in the 90s. And then one more nugget, too. He went to Georgetown, which sort of fits the mold of higher education, right? Kevin Stefanski went to Penn. Andrew Berry went to Harvard, so they're looking for just the brightest minds in football. But let's go most recently to his stint with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? He was a defensive coordinator there for 5 seasons, helped him win a Super Bowl, and you can sort of see the bell curve, right? Comes in 2016, gets him rocking and rolling in 2017, and then they slowly got worse and worse just in terms of points allowed. Lots of ways to measure a defense. But I will bring up the run defense once again, because that is probably the biggest box that needs to be checked for any hire here. And the run defense was pretty stout. Up until his last year, 3 top 10 finishes, top 7 finishes, including first and third. So that's definitely a big plus when it comes to Jim Schwartz, okay? Here's my issue with Jim Schwartz. It's not even my issue. I don't think he wants to be a defensive coordinator anymore, okay? He's with the Titans as a senior defensive assistant. I went to Tennessee, and one of my good friends in college was the family's babysitter. It was like, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on it too much, but I think he took the Titans role as sort of a half retirement of, you know what, family lives in Nashville. I'll help out with the Titans. I'll be an advisory role. I don't know if he's ready to jump into a major defensive coordinator role again. Could be, right? 2 years sort of in quasi-retirement. He's like, I want to get back into real hardcore coaching, but wouldn't be shocked if he's like, I kind of enjoy living in Nashville. I'm going to stay right here with my family. I don't want to be a DC again. I'm kind of looking to sort of ride off into the sunset. I've got his Super Bowl ring. I'm not going to go chasing another one. Could be, maybe not. We got more names to get to in just a second, but if you're looking for a reason to subscribe, I got a handful for you, but 3 specifically. 1, we do live shows every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's a really fun, interactive way to engage with me, and I can get to know you guys even better. Also, wall-to-wall off-season coverage. There is no one out there that's going to be giving you guys the latest Browns off-season news and rumors, plus interactive videos. Always love interacting with you guys in the comment section below, so subscribe to the channel if you have not already. My third replacement option, what about the Broncos defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero? So this would be a fantastic hire. I mean, I think I could like this even more than Jim Schwartz. Brian Flores right there with it. But Evero just wrapped up his first season as the defensive coordinator with the Broncos. He was an assistant coach with the Rams before that. And after just 1 season as a defensive coordinator, he's already getting head coaching buzz. So you definitely got to respect the fact that he has control of the locker room, has control of the defense, and clearly has some leadership qualities and skills if teams are already looking at him as more than just a leader of half the football, but the entire organization as a whole. Now, the only good thing about the Broncos this year, and when it was a horrible season in Denver, was Evero in this defense, okay? There was a stat for a long time of if the Broncos just scored 18 points, they would have been like 9-1 or something. That's how good the defense was. Looking at the 2022 Broncos stats here, points allowed. Now, the last couple of weeks, they sort of like raised their hands and like, we sort of surrender. The offense sucks. Russell Wilson sucks this year. We have given up all we can. Points allowed 14th. Total yards, they were 7th. Rushing yards, they were 10th. And passing yards, they were 12th. So, this was a defense that had Randy Gregory go down for a long stretch. Bradley Chubb was traded. Their heart and soul Justin Simmons went on IR. Lots of injuries. And despite that next man up mentality, despite that, the next man up mentality took over. So for that, Chuck Norris, thumbs up, baby. Give it to me. I would like to see Evero now here's the big if Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton or whoever, Dan Quinn, goes to Denver and brings on their own defensive coordinator, Evero is going to be the hottest name on the street. Everyone is going to want to get them on their team. So it's a big if, because maybe Harbaugh or whoever gets there as the head coach and goes, yeah, I'm keeping Evero. Why would I get rid of him? His defense kicked ass this year. So if he is relieved of his duties by the next head coach, that would be my number one guy probably. We've got more names to get to in just a moment, but today's show is brought to you by BetUS. Postseason football is here, and I'm already thinking about the wild card round. I'm liking the Vikings. Even though they're frauds, they might have out-frauded themselves, and they've gone like full circle now, and they're back to being good. So with that, join me, ride with me, make all of your picks and all your bets at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125, and they'll give you a deposit bonus of 125%. Fourth Joe Woods replacement, Jerod Mayo. This has been an up-and-coming name in NFL coaching circles, the inside linebacker coach for the New England Patriots. He's had that role since 2019. Beforehand, if you recall, he was a 8-year vet with the New England Patriots and a 7-time captain. Now, he's been mentioned, like I said, in coaching circles, and I don't work in the Browns front office. I don't work in the NFL front office, but there is something to, you don't just hire someone because of how their defense is ranked, right? You got to hire the guy himself, the man, the leader. And Jerod Mayo would bring some very much needed leadership to this Browns defense, because there were just one too many examples this year of it looking like a player was taking a play off, right? Maybe this defense wasn't the best coached and just overall motivated down the stretch. There were way too many times where I really questioned the leadership in this locker room. And I think Jerod Mayo would come in and get people in line. So for that reason, thumbs up Chuck Norris. I'm in. Give me Jerod Mayo. If he wants to be the defensive coordinator, I know he's getting head coaching buzz, but I think he's probably got to take one more step before he gets to the head coaching rank. And a DC for the Browns would be a pretty good step if you ask me. Fifth Joe Woods replacement now is Vic Fangio, former head coach and longtime defensive coordinator. I posted on Twitter today, I tweeted out, hey, who is your number one Joe Woods replacement? And got a handful of replies saying Vic Fangio. So let's talk about Victor Fangio. He was the Broncos head coach from 2019 to 2021. He went 19-30, and he was just unable to get the offensive side of things down. But his defense in Denver, like every place he has been in his career, kicked ass. He's got 19 years as experience as a defensive coordinator. Started with the Panthers, went to the Colts, then went to the Texans, with the Niners. And that's really where he sort of made his name, with Jim Harbaugh back in San Francisco. And then with the Bears, where, if you remember that 2018 double-doink Bears team, yeah, the defense was carried by Vic Fangio. I mean, not carried by, but was, instilled and installed by Vic Fangio. Now, he has been rumored to be linked to Sean Payton. Wherever Sean Payton goes, Vic Fangio will be his defensive coordinator. So if that's the case, he's not going to come to Cleveland, because I don't see the Browns firing Kevin Stefanski anymore, especially with leaving, Joe Woods on the side of the street. They're not going to fire their head coach after the DC. That's kind of backwards if you ask me. But the Broncos defense under Vic Fangio was great, right? The offense was not good. That's why he got fired. But the defense was not a problem. They were third in points allowed last year, and they had, Von Miller get traded midseason to the Rams, right? Bradley Chubb was hurt. They had a lot of injuries. And despite that, they were third in points allowed. Turnovers were kind of lagging behind a little bit, but if you ask anyone from Denver, Vic Fangio, I don't think they have a bad taste in their mouth after he left. It was just couldn't get the quarterback down, and Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock were not going to cut it. But Vic Fangio, before then, with the Chicago Bears, that's really that's why he got the head coaching job in Denver, right? 2018, first in points allowed, first in turnovers. I mean, nearly a clean sweep of being number one in every single statistical category. I mean, that defense in 2018 for Chicago, if you look at it just by the numbers and by the stats, is going to go down as one of the best defenses of all time in just a single season. Now, Fangio has had a long record of sustaining success. Go back to 2011 when he was the Niners, right? second, and third points allowed in 3 straight seasons, Vic Fangio would be an unbelievable hire. Now, Vic Fangio does run a 3-4 defense, and I get it. It can be weird for your brain, and you got to also kind of redesign your defense. Not everyone's going to fit in a 3-4 when you've been drafting and going through free agency with a 4-3 defense in mind. But Bears made a change when Fangio got there. The Broncos made a change, and it worked out pretty well. My only issue is, and I'm going to give it a thumbs down, I would like to hire him. Don't get me wrong. I think he's probably going to go wherever Sean Payton goes. I don't see Sean Payton coming to Cleveland. I don't see Kevin Stefanski getting fired. So I'm giving this a thumbs down in terms of, not that I would not hire him. I would like to hire him, but I ultimately just don't see it happening. I've just heard sort of it'd be nice to hire him. Haven't actually heard any concrete buzz of the Browns having interest in Vic Fangio. So this defense, like I said at the top of the video, was pretty fraudulent this year, right? We all remember when this channel hit 10K subs, I did 10 reasons why the Browns will win the AFC North, which I look like a clown right now, but most of those 10 reasons were built around the defense, and they let me down. So I'll ask you this. Will the defense bounce back next season? Yes or no? Before we sign off here, some under-the-radar names to watch for. Not your household defensive names here, but Jerry Gray, he's the DB coach for Green Bay. Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, they've had some really good names up in the frozen tundra. Corey Underlin, the DB coach for the Niners, also had a good track record of promoting and producing great defensive backs. Anthony Weaver, the D-line coach for Baltimore. I mean, these are all guys who are looking to make the step up, and at their respective positions, their groups have performed and played very well. I'm going to include Sean Desai on there. That's the defensive coordinator in Seattle. Not because I think he's going to get fired. He's not getting fired. But I have heard some rumors of Pete Carroll might retire. And if Pete Carroll retires, maybe the next guy comes in and brings his own defensive coordinator. And then you've got Sean Desai on the street, sort of like Evero, not for a bad reason, but because a new regime came in and they wanted to go their own direction. So kind of keep an eye on that, especially if the Seahawks are one and done in the playoffs. And like Pete Carroll goes, you know what, I'm going to go out kind of on a high note and making the playoffs in a year when everyone said we would be one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's good timing. Carl Scott, DB coach for Seattle. Listen, he's got Tariq Woolen, the 5th-round draft pick, playing like a defensive rookie of the year. That's going to get you some defensive coordinator buzz right there. I appreciate everyone for tuning into today's show. We'll sign off and see you guys later with probably the latest rumors and whatnot on this defensive coordinator position. Could be Mike Prefer replacements tomorrow. Who knows? So if you're looking for more Browns content, subscribe to the channel today.